It is Wednesday evening, and you know what that means. It is time to do another Auburn Family live stream where we talk about what you want to discuss, your calls, your comments, and questions. This show is built for you and by you. Let's get into it and talk about everything in the Auburn experience, starting right now. As you can tell, we're a little bit rusty and getting used to being back in the saddle. A couple things that we're going to be talking about tonight. Obviously, the things that you want to discuss in the Auburn experience. But where has Kyle been? What's been going on with E2C Network? A little bit of an update about that and much more. Here we are, live again, back with you to talk about the Auburn experience. So however you got here, however you are watching the show, we appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time, being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. And we appreciate you choosing to be with us. As is the case with every single Wednesday night, this is a show that is about what you want to discuss. We will be taking some calls. We will be taking obviously comments and questions throughout the stream tonight. So don't be shy. Jump right in. We'd love for you to get started by making sure that making sure my microphone's on and everything. So if anybody finds any issues with the setup, sound quality, all that kind of stuff, let me know. Obviously a different little setup tonight. More on that in just a little bit. But would love to hear from you by posting where you're watching from, your city, your state, international, all of that good stuff, so that we can know who's here. A lot of you are already doing that. Thank you so much for taking part in that. And of course, smash the like button. Let me take care of some housekeeping news to start off with tonight, and then we'll start saying hello to a bunch of you I already see checking in. Obviously, I'm on the road here. This is not the normal setup. I know the lighting's a little bit different. The audio is probably a little bit different, so please do keep me informed of how it can improve. This will be a secondary studio for me a lot over the next few weeks. And you'll see this a little bit. You'll see me some in studio at E2C Network Central, but you will probably see a version of this over the next couple of weeks. Why is that? Well, just to be frank, I can't go into a lot of details, and for those of you that want us to get into the Auburn stuff, we're getting there, but I want to give you some context where I've been and where everybody else has been. We have had a big life change in our family in a very good way. We cannot go into details of that right now at this time. You can use your imagination as to what that might be. And I appreciate you guys' patience with sharing that. But we are having some new things happening in our life, and we're going to talk about that at a much later date. But that is why I'm in a different place, and you'll see that a lot over the next couple of weeks. And obviously, probably some schedule changes as we try to get back into the normal routine of doing things tonight. So I thank you so much for y'all's patience and willingness to still be here and hang on while there's not been a lot of E2C Network content over the last few days. So obviously, if you guys have questions about that, I can't give you a lot of information, but feel free to ask. I'm an open book for the most part as to what I can and can't answer. I will use that discretion. But for now, I want to set the table for us. We'll start out by saying hello to a lot of the fine people that are checking in with us. Stan, John, Brian, Devin's here. I think I said hey to Devin. A lot of other people checked in early. Kevin. I think I got most of everybody so far. Thank you guys so much for being here. Phone lines are open, brought to you by our friends at allthingsauburn.net. So do please check them out if you have not. And we'd love to for you to check them out and use them for a place for you to stay when you visit Auburn. So phone lines are open. Call in if you'd like to. Would love to hear from some of you guys tonight. You can be on camera or off camera. So here's the thing. I'm going to be honest with you guys, as I've expressed. Been a crazy few days for me. I saw part of the Cal game. I saw a lot of ups and downs at times. I also saw a lot of frustration expressed about it. I have not had a chance to sit down and watch the actual full game yet. I have some opinions about it, but at the same time, I actually might be learning something new tonight, as I have not had a lot of time to dive in like I normally would into what has and hasn't happened. But I still want us to talk about it. So obviously, your opinions are going to be a big thing tonight about the latest Auburn football game. We're going to be heading on into homecoming week, and that is a big one too. I know that it's never a marquee matchup. Sanford is not a premier football team, at least at our level of football, but homecoming is an exciting time in the Plains. We do plan to be on campus this weekend, sharing all of that content and all of those experiences. So look forward to that. I'm excited about that, to be honest with you, because I love homecoming week. And Cody's going to be there as well. So we got a lot of fine people that seem like they're going to be coming to campus. So we've already got some people lining up in the chat here in the phone lines. So we're going to go ahead and say hello to them. Keep your comments and questions coming. We'll hit them throughout the night tonight. But let's go ahead and say hello to our first individual all the way from the Great White North, Mr. Brian. What's going on, sir?
Hey, how are you?
I am doing well. I am
weird.
Tired. It's a little bit weird. I'm a little bit tired, but I am obviously excited to be back here with you guys.
Can you see me okay? Like, this is a weird.
You're like you were halfway off camera like this. There you go.
I don't know what's going on. Anyway, yeah, since we didn't get to talk after the game, and I'm probably excited for why, I just thought I'd check it on the California experience, Auburn in California.
So I was hoping you would call about this tonight. So I want to sit back for a second and let you tell us a little bit about it. Because so the context for everybody, Brian went to the game out there in Cal, and I'm sure got a full range of stories and stuff like that. So please share with us your time at the Auburn Cal game.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, the game itself obviously wasn't the most exciting game I've ever been to in my life, with 4 turnovers and 3 missed field goals by Cal. But it started with, for me, at the airport in Minneapolis, I see a guy wearing Auburn stuff. So of course I walk up and say War Eagle, and he gives me the War Eagle, and that's quick. And then as I got on the plane, and we were sitting 1 row behind first class, which is its own special kind of torture. But as the plane was loading, this guy and his wife were there, and we start talking again. And he says, "You're going to the game?" I said, "Yeah." It was Gunnar Britton's dad.
John Britton.
So, yeah. So it's super cool to just talk to him. And he's like, "Well, my son plays." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." But he's like, number 53. And I'm like, "Gunnar?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week, Gunnar?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, we're pretty happy he's at Auburn. So,
yes.
So that's kind of a fun little start to the weekend. And then, so I posted in Discord, like, it was an Auburn takeover. Like, we probably got told War Eagle, I don't know, 75, 100 times walking around San Francisco on Saturday morning, which is nowhere near campus, really, but just, walking down by the ferry building and Pier 39 and Fisherman's Wharf, just a ton of War Eagles. And then we got to Berkeley. I have a pretty good friend who lives in Santa Rosa, who's a Cal fan. Him and his wife are Cal fans. Met us for dinner. They picked the restaurant. They walked in, and they're like, "Are we in Alabama? Everyone in here is wearing orange. What's going on?" Okay, the Auburn family shows up, man. We show up.
Yes.
So, and he's a little bit of a closet Auburn fan, thanks to our friendship. Like, he cheers for us against most teams, but yeah, so it was just a super fun night. Again, the game wasn't, it's good to win, but the game itself was probably I don't want to say the low light, but just so much fun, even not on campus, to be around Auburn people. They just make the experience so incredible. And I was traveling with someone who was experiencing that for the first time, and she was pretty blown away. She's like, "Man, she's like, you War Eagles are everywhere." I'm like, "We're Tigers."
Listen, I always just have fun with that when they call us War Eagles and stuff. Of course, I correct them, but to me, it's a great opportunity to educate, and talk about our history and tell the stories that we all love to tell. So what I love is the continued display of love for Auburn from the fan base when it's not around the campus, because it doesn't matter if this is a semi-pro team, we're talking about in the minor leagues of or minor leagues of baseball, Auburn fans show up to see Auburn people. And
They do.
I always say this, if there's a professional team out there that you need to get your attendance numbers up, sign an Auburn person and display them prominently. The fan base, the family will show up. And I think, it's easy to say that when, let's just use an example, the Atlanta Falcons sign a player. That's 2 hours from Auburn. There's a lot of people around there, but it's much different when people like you, especially going from Minnesota, go all the way out to California, and people from Auburn, Alabama go out to California and show up and really show people why it's different in the SEC, but also why it's different at Auburn.
I can't tell you this week how many Packer fan friends of mine have texted me like, well, I know you hate the Packers, but you must be excited about our new kicker. And I'm like, well, yeah. I love Anders.
Yes.
Yeah, you're proving that point, right? Like we do love. If you have any connection to Auburn, we love you. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it was just fun to see that much orange and blue, specifically orange. Again, of course around the stadium, but around San Francisco today was really just fun. Like we're just everywhere. It was a good.
And honestly, I'm glad that the Cal people got into this matchup, at least social media wise, because it's going to make for a fun return trip. And, hopefully we'll have a good experience like we did with the Penn State fans that came down to Auburn. Obviously, we hated the result of that game and that weekend, but, we got rave stories about how great the Auburn people are. So it's one thing for you to talk about your fan base showing up for your team wherever it is, but it's another thing about being great host. And look, we're going to have fun. We're all going to pick at each other. It's a football game, right? But time and time again, the Auburn family shows out, and I hope that carries over when Cal comes to town next year.
And the Cal fans around us were super fun. They were into it. They were great sports. Somehow or another, and there's always one, right in front of us, and over one seat was a guy in head-to-toe Bama stuff. We're just like, why? Like, we're all going, why are you here? Like, what? Did you get lost? I mean, you just didn't want to watch that embarrassment in Tuscaloosa today? I mean, like, there's always one. But, yeah, I mean, the Cal fans were, and to his credit, this Cal fan said to me, he goes, hey, who's your real rival? Is it LSU? Is it Georgia? And he just points at me and he goes, it's those guys, and it's not even close.
Yeah. Yeah.
He goes, it doesn't matter about anything else. It's those guys, and it's not even close.
Right. So, it's not a case of like Florida where you've got Florida State, which just makes sense to be a great rivalry, but then they've got the Georgia rivalry, and it's just kind of, this nuanced thing where, well, this year we hate them more. This year we hate. There is just pure, unadulterated hatred towards each other. Auburn and Alabama.
Right, for sure. So no. But I just wanted to. I don't think I would have been able to call in Saturday night anyway. The cell coverage in there was horrible. The train back to San Francisco was unbelievably packed.
I bet.
But it was fun.
I'm glad you had a good experience. The game, obviously, not the most ideal like watchability. Results good, but I walk away from that game, frankly, not discouraged, because at least for me, I've built this concept of this is still game 2 with this extenuating circumstance of traveling out so far, trying to figure out what is and isn't going to work. And so my biggest takeaway is, I don't know if you have a different perspective being there and seeing it in person. I think this team has still obviously got a lot of room to grow, but I'm not hitting the panic button simply because we won by 4 to Cal. Like I said, it was going to be a very close game. I thought it would score a little bit more.
Right.
Any real quick thoughts about that?
Quick thoughts on the game. Where I never like it when you don't protect the ball better than 4 turnovers. That's like missing free throws in basketball, right? Like, if you do nothing else, protect the football.
Right.
And then the inability to complete a pass is a little scary. And it became so predictable with Robbie's in the game, Peyton's in the game. Robbie's in the game, Peyton's in the game. It's like we're not fooling anyone right now.
Right.
So But and people can say this is excuses or whatever. It's not, but that's a long trip.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird start time when you're used to living in the central time zone, like I do. I mean, I woke up at 4:30 each morning. I mean, just wide awake because I normally wake up at 6:30. I'm sure the teenagers, 20-year-olds sleep a little better than 49-year-olds, but still, I mean, you're out of rhythm is my point. So there's a lot of reasons why you could have lost that game, and we didn't. So, so much to clean up. Game 2 of the freeze era. Still a Power 5 opponent in their house, and we won. So, War Eagle.
Anytime you can go on the road against a Power 5 opponent and get a win, even if it's a little bit of an ugly win, that to me, especially given the context, we're not even talking about the context of everything else that's going on. Right. That's something that you just walk away from and like, all right, we're good. Let's move forward. Let's learn from this. Yeah. I think you brought up what would be the biggest concern to me, because that's just fundamental football, is protecting the ball. Mm-hmm. And it did feel like, in me trying to watch the game in my busy evening that night, every time I would turn it on, they were talking about, well, there was an interception, there was a possible fumble. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it's the worst possible thing when you're not able to actually like sit down and pay attention to the game. And every time you log in, well, I think he actually fumbled that one, Bob, the commentator. So,
well, we had decent seats, and I'll move on for someone else, but we had decent seats. We're about, 10, 12 rows up on about the 35. And the last fumble, like I think it was Jarquez. We ran it. I could be wrong about that. We ran it. They blew it dead. We're basically ready to run a play again, some 25, 30 seconds into the play clock, and they blow it to review it. And my buddy looks at me and he goes, "Oh, I don't think he fumbled." And I said, "If they waited 35 seconds to review it, he fumbled." I go, "I guarantee you he fumbled. They didn't stop it because it was, he fumbled."
Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing that people miss sometimes. A lot of times the reason they're taking so long is because they're trying to find where to re-spot the ball because of the change of possession and stuff like. So if you see that taking so long, that's usually not a good sign.
Well, no, what I mean is, like, so we ran a play.
Okay.
Down, they spotted. We're like, looking at the sideline, getting the next play in, and that went 30, 35 seconds.
Gotcha. No,
but can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Rules? Are you a rules guy?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay, so on that play, I remember specifically, I think there's 4 when he was tackled. There's 4 minutes and 30 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
And when they went to do the review, whether he fumbled or not, there was 4 minutes left.
Yes.
Or it might have been 3:30 and 3 minutes. But anyway, I know 30 seconds ran off the clock.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm worried about we might need that 30 seconds on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so if he fumbled and it's a change of possessions, why wouldn't that 30 seconds go back on the clock?
That I don't know the answer. I'll just be honest, but that feels like that's something. What was the time left in the game again?
It was either 4 or 3 minutes left.
That feels like something that falls within these new
rules,
a clock management situation, because that does intrigue me a little bit too. And so I'd have to look into it and see if that falls within that new guideline.
Like, did he fumble? Is there a clear recovery? What yard line? And how much time is on the clock when he was?
Yeah. Yep. I'm betting we're talking about one of those nuanced situations that happen with the new clock, until you don't know that is what happens until it actually happens.
Because in the moment, honest to God, I was more upset about I want those 30 seconds back.
Please give me the 30 seconds back.
And so let's finish the story. The Cal guy next to me goes, "Do you think 30 seconds would matter?" And the Bama guy's right in front of me. I go, "Hey, I was at this game once, and you wouldn't believe it, but with 1 second left, something crazy happened." He just turns around. He's like, "Shut up." Yeah.
Hey, that boy better saddle up, because it's going to be happening all this year with the 10th anniversary. So
it was pretty funny. So anyway, War Eagle,
great to hear from you. Thanks for calling in. All right, great to hear from Brian. We'll get our next caller in here in just a second, so hang tight. Let me hit some of these other comments that popped in. A lot of you are checking in now. I see a lot of you here. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with us tonight. Good to see a lot of you all here. Carl says the O-line was better than it was in previous seasons, but not as good as I think they are. So I'm taking that to mean you think you had a higher opinion of what they've shown thus far. If that's what you meant by that, Carl, I agree. I think we're still a little bit early to make big assessments about any position group, but I think it's clear that we're getting a little bit more success by the offensive line as opposed to the previous seasons. I think the Cal game offense all around just wasn't all that great. So you're going to have a lower opinion of that. But I think as time goes on, you're going to see a lot of these guys start to show out even more. Gunnar Britton, as we've already talked about, Brian brought him up, was already the lineman of the week. Probably multiple more of those coming. When Auburn's getting a lineman of the week week 1 of the season, that should make you feel real good compared to where we've been the last couple of seasons. All right, let's get our next call on the line. You guys also can call in, hit that link up at the top. You can be on camera or off camera. Get in the line here, and we'll get you in on the show. There he is, Mr. Kevin. How are you doing, sir? Kevin, can you hear me? You're on the camera, sir. Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, there we are. We got a little bit of delay. We'll try to work through it. But what's on your mind tonight?
I think Jaquez Hunter played good.
I haven't sat back enough to look and see. I don't know if you missed this. I wasn't able to watch the game fully. I had a very busy night that evening and since then too. But I do remember seeing a couple of great runs by him. Great to see him back out on the field. Everybody's going to be a little bit rusty in their first game back, but how great is it to have him back out there?
It feels good.
It really does. I mean, look, the running backs are already great as is, but when you got Jarquez Hunter back in as an arsenal in that backfield, whoo, boy, that just makes you even more deadly.
What do you think about that number 9 kid on defense?
Eugene Asante, let's work. Yeah. That's what he says all the time. I love stories of guys that put in their time. There was some stuff written this week about how he was supposedly on scout team and being kept there by Coach Harsin. I guess there's some truth to that. I don't really know the ins and outs of that, but whether it was by choice or whatever, to see him work his way to this point, that makes me happy. You heard me talk a lot about guys that have been here for a while, maybe showing out this year, maybe some tight ends, things like that, Luke Deals, those type of names. How great is it to see Eugene Asante, who came in during that time, show out and work, as he likes to say, on defense. I mean, I think, you can probably look at him as one of those key factors in the game that Auburn was able to actually squeak out with a win in California.
Before DJ James intercepted the ball.
Another interception. Was it 2 on the night? I can't remember.
Yeah, 2 on.
Yep. So I think we all knew this. The defensive backfield for Auburn is very experienced, very talented, and there's going to be teams that are going to really struggle to throw on Auburn. They may throw on Auburn, but they're not going to get away with it a lot. They're going to have interceptions that are going to be had. There's a lot of playmakers over there. So just excited to see that continue to play. What else?
Javaris Johnson did good.
I didn't get a chance to look at, I should probably just pull up the stat line for me here just so I can reference it for you guys tonight. But I'll be honest, I had a hard time following a lot of the stats that evening, but it did seem like that we had a few wide receivers step up in big moments. What was it? Rivaldo Fairweather, the tight end. How about him? Did you see that catch, Kevin? Did you like that catch in the end zone?
Yeah. Yes, I love it.
That was actually, I just pulled up the stat thing on ESPN, and that's the catch I'm watching right now. I mean, just to be honest, I'm looking at it right now. Guy just goes up and makes a play in the end zone. And when he came in, that's what you were bringing him in for, was for you to be able to throw up the ball.
Yeah.
A decently placed ball, and for him to be able to go and get it in coverage. I mean, that's not an EV. The guy's clearly, I'm watching it right now. The guy is all over him, and he still makes the play to win the game.
Did Peyton Thorne throw the ball?
He did. That was him throwing the ball. That was him throwing the ball. Peyton had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 9 for 14, 94 yards. So not a great game. A lot of the time, your quarterback is a reflection of how your offense did. So I think that kind of shows a lot there, that the offense was a little underwhelming, but got enough done on the road. Here, if you remember this, Kevin, we talked about this in our preview shows, that the defenses were going to, who was the better defense was going to win this game. And obviously Auburn, coming from the SEC, I think showed that they've got the better defense.
I think we will beat Sanford real bad.
Oh, yeah. I think that's pretty certain. I will always caution Auburn fans, ever since we watched the Georgia State game a few seasons ago, don't take anything for granted. But I just got to be honest, little Sanford, I don't know that they're going to be able to muster much, especially when you're an Auburn team that needs to improve this week, like needs to show that they're learning from their mistakes, taking care of the ball at home, homecoming. Not much of a chance for them. Not much of a chance. Will you be at the game this weekend for homecoming?
I wish I was going.
Okay. Well, I'm sad you're not going to be there. But...
September 30th, Georgia game.
Well, if you have to trade,
you think if
go ahead.
You think if we beat Texas A&M next Saturday,
do I think if we beat them next,
college game day might be at Auburn?
I think if Auburn is undefeated,
college game day might be at.
Yeah, I think
Auburn
if
Georgia.
Yes, if Auburn's undefeated, I think Auburn will have a good chance of hosting college game day for Georgia. So that's a good one to come to if you're going to not come to Sanford. So I love that. So here's what I want to know from you, since I'd love to ask you. You got a final score prediction for Auburn versus Sanford to end your call?
48-7.
48-7. I love it. Everybody lock it in. This is where we set our point predictions for everybody. We'll let Kevin predict. So 48-7. You have heard it here. We are going to win against Sanford. Kevin, buddy, is good to hear from you as always. And we look forward to talking to you again next week.
War Eagle.
War Eagle. All right, you guys can call in too tonight, so make sure that you utilize that call-in link there. And do please, guys, I know I say this all the time, let me know if it's a little bit slow tonight on the uplink or anything like that. I've set up a makeshift studio of sorts here, and I'm trying to figure out what does and doesn't work. So please do let me know if there's any improvements that can be made, if it looks like the connection's slow, the sound quality is not as good. I'll obviously go back and listen to it on the back end, but your feedback in time is obviously very much appreciated. Brian, good question. Is the equipment truck back from the West Coast yet? I have not heard. Granted, it's not been my main focus this week. They left pretty much right after the game, as soon as they got stuff loaded up, it seemed like. So if we kind of use that as a marker, they arrived. It was a 3-day trip to Berkeley for them. So they probably, today's Wednesday, I bet they probably arrived either this afternoon or arriving this evening. That would be my estimation. That's a crew that made good time last time, so I think they're probably already back home. Carl says, I'm not going to high-five the defense. I'll hug them for playing great. When they are not great, the talent is sprinkled throughout our roster and is starting to show in flashes. I don't think I understand exactly what you're saying there, but there is definitely a lot of talent on that defense, and it's definitely been the most consistent of the teams, offense and defense, thus far. John says, kind of scared to make a prediction after the Cal game, as sad as that is. I understand that this game is very concerning for a lot of people, but I would still encourage everybody to think about the context of what was going on, what is currently going on with this team and this program, and what that game kind of exacerbated and the weaknesses that are there simply because of a transition year. Now, to your point, that still is a reason to maybe be a little bit cautious now on what predictions might. I think you're safe on Sanford, though. I know I just said everybody remember Georgia State, but I think you're safe on Sanford. So we can make predictions about that. Here's what we learned this week, folks. And 2 weeks in the season. And tell me if y'all disagree. The SEC is struggling in its first, at least the top half. It's what was perceived as the top half, first part of their games this season. LSU, yes, it was a very respectable loss. Alabama, respectable loss. Florida is, wow, are they bad? Texas A&M appears right now to be the Texas A&M we know of, tons and tons of talent with no ability to use them. So for those of you that think that recruiting wins everything, I still continue to submit to you Texas A&M. Coaching and recruiting matter together. And there's even much more that goes into that as well. Neil agrees, SEC being down. It'd be insane if Coach Prime took Colorado to the playoffs. They're going to game day. Game day is going to Boulder this week, right? That's true. I think it is for the Colorado State-Colorado rivalry game. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really hope this Colorado thing lasts for a long time with Coach Prime. It's not going to, he's going to get a big job at some point if he continues this. But I love having names that we're not used to factor in to the big picture of college football. Colorado had some real good success in their past. They have been very, over the last couple of decades. So the fact that we're even talking about them, I love that. Will it sustain past this year, though? That's going to be the big question. There's a lot of energy and a lot of excitement into the program right now. We were just talking, and I'm assuming this is who this is, Mr. John Britton, about Gunner. So if this is you, thank you for being here. And you got a shout out in a call earlier. So I don't mean to embarrass you if that is who I think it is, but wanted you to know we were just, your ears must have been burning it because we were talking about you. Colorado's not going to make the playoffs, Devin says. They maybe go 6-6. I think the hype will wear off the further they get into the season. Now, it's a really great start to their season, is it not? So I still am very much convinced we made the right choice between, a lot of people assumed it was Hugh, Lane, and Coach Prime as the choices for Auburn. Right now, I think we've still made the best choice, the best fit for Auburn, but I still am rooting for the story of Colorado and Coach Prime together. You did miss the shout out, but Brian, who's in the chat right now, said he got the opportunity to meet you and expressed how excited we are to have Gunner as part of this team, and how if you're an Auburn offensive lineman and family member, friend of them right now, you are probably the most valued people right now, because we have hoped and dreamed and waited for just some improvement for quite some time. And listen, I say this all the time. When we talk about how bad offensive lineman play has been over the last couple of years at Auburn, it is not a reflection on one particular player. 2 of them, 3 of them, it is about a collective problem that's been there. It just didn't work. And it seems like it's going to be trending in a much better direction with guys like Gunner here and many more too. And guys that stayed over too. So we're happy to have them. Corey says, hearing the Bama fans crying for their binky on Feinbaum Monday afternoon was glorious. The dynasty is over. Every loss, we'll never win one again. They need to chill out. Texas is a really good football team. I was talking with a family member today, and we were discussing, it was kind of an embarrassing loss. Not embarrassing, but they got beat more than you thought they would. And Texas probably could have beat Bama more than they really showed with the final score. But it's not just that Bama maybe wasn't as strong as we thought, even at home. Texas is a good football team. So credit to them. Neil says, I watched the Bama-Texas game. Bama's defense did not look good. Thought Steele would have that defense playing lights out. Is that his first year as Bama's defensive coordinator again? Of course, this is like his second or third stint there. Here's what I know about Kevin Steele. That he has great defenses historically. We've seen that at Auburn. My hope is he doesn't get to stay there long for whatever reason, because if you give Kevin Steele time, he will get the defense right. We have seen that happen. So first season is DC. So let's take advantage of the struggles that come with changing in the first season, usually, if we can. We'll take it since it's not Auburn related. We'll get back to some Auburn topics, but I usually tell you guys pretty much anything's on the table. Off topic, did you catch the Jets game the other night? Insane that Aaron went out like that. Yeah, I did not catch it, but I obviously have seen, I obviously have heard. I play fantasy football, not affecting me in any way, but God, what was it like? What was the figure I saw? 7 plays or something like that he was in. It's like 70-something seconds of play time he was actually in. The Jets can't catch a break. Here's the even better thing. Let me tie it back to Auburn. Did y'all see? I know that our people in our Conquer Club did, because they were talking about it. The Aaron Rodgers, CJ Uzomah bet. For those of you that don't know, obviously Aaron Rodgers was from Cal. Auburn, CJ Uzomah, they made a bet. Same team at the Jets. They made a bet. Whoever loses wears the other team's jersey. And so we got a picture of him wearing that jersey. Was it a little bit of bad luck put on him from that? I don't know. It's an odd little coincidence there, but I'm sad to hear it for him. I got no ill will for Rodgers, even though I am traditionally a Packer fan. But yeah, that was interesting. Let's see here. Roll down here. 5 minutes into the game. Yeah, that was pretty awful. Kyle, Anders Carlson was lights out for the Packers. Again, yeah, kind of like with our game. Here's let me give you guys a perspective. Saturday and Sunday, definitely Sunday, and a lot of Monday, Kyle did not exist to the world. So a lot of that stuff I'm still catching up on. But I love that Anders Carlson is having such early success. We know that he's a great kicker. If you go back to his time here at Auburn, when you compare to what he had to follow his brother, Daniel, that alone is such a heavy burden to carry. But then being here during just one of the worst times to be at Auburn of the modern era and having those struggles, those injuries, to see him have that success now at the next level, it just got to warm your heart. And it makes me feel good that he's with my team that I have an affinity toward because of family, the Packers. Brian, I knew you were going to say something like that. And here we go, right here. I do not, sorry, I knocked the microphone a little bit. I do not really align with one team these days. I will always, always, always love the Packers on some level because of that's what I grew up. I have family from Wisconsin. And so there will always be an affinity towards them, but I go where the Auburn players go. And I don't really even root for the team. I'm watching to see what the guys that wore orange and blue are doing. So the fact that Anders is having such a great time is great. Let's see. Devontae says, oh, did it melt your heart that Coach Freeze baptized one of his football players yesterday? I did not see that. And if that is true, and I'll take your word at it, Devontae, that is amazing. Obviously the best decision that anybody can make, in my opinion, and in several others. I know everyone doesn't share the same beliefs, even here on this stream, but what I love is caring about the things that matter from your head coach. We're all here for the football team. We're all here for the wins, but there's so much more to it. And I love seeing him invest in that. Yeah, Devin, this is a storyline that a lot of people are discussing about Dabo not accepting the transfer portal thing and being behind the times. I don't know when we last talked about it. It's been a blur over the last few days. But I do feel like this is a little bit still, I want to say overblown, but I disagree with that. Every team has to take advantage of the transfer portal as much as we did, as much as Colorado did. Colorado had to be relevant this year. Clemson didn't have to, But if you're not careful, you will see you slip back from that great foundation that you've laid yourself if you have not taken care of what you need to take care of at every single area. So to your point, Devin, maybe an aversion completely to the transfer portal is stupid, but it's not necessarily I have to have this for every single team. Maybe about more coaching than players. It might be. It might be. Time will tell, right? What else? Okay. We've hit a lot. If I've missed something earlier in the show about what you want to discuss, Auburn, bring it back up. I know a lot of people, we were taking calls then. If you want to call in, use it. Again, thanks to our friends at allthingsauburn.net. If you're looking for a place to stay at Auburn, please do check them out. We want to make sure that you guys have a great place to stay at Auburn. They are like literally less than a 5-minute walk from all the main venues, Neville Arena, Jordan Hare, Plainsman Park. Downtown is just about as close. So many other great things here. But yeah, so check them out if you haven't. Country Cutie says, did you see the Auburn men's basketball post today? They were asked if basketball didn't exist, what would they be doing? Thought for sure Trey Donaldson would say football, but he said baseball. Yeah, that does surprise me too. I didn't realize he had a baseball background, but the guy's so athletic. Does it surprise you that he has more than just that in his arsenal? Like for me, that's not a surprise in terms of his athleticism. So I love hearing he's that well-rounded. It makes me more excited to have him here as a player. All right, we'll get back to comments and questions here in just a little bit. Keep them coming. Thank you guys for being here. Great crowd tonight. But let's get into our next call tonight. You know him, you love him. Mr. Offensive Lineman fan himself. He's blacked out, but there he is. Thomas Manville, what's up?
I'm here in the best lighting I can be.
Well, it wasn't your lighting. It was the connection when I brought you over was like black screen. It's probably my internet. By the way, how does it sound on the back end?
It sounds fine to me.
Okay. But I know that it's a little bit different setup, a little different connection. So I'm always concerned about that stuff. But what's on your mind?
Man, Cal game, first and foremost, the amount of plays the defense had to play to keep the offense in the game was pretty daggum bad. It really was.
Yeah.
We did come out with a win, and I'm going to do my best to not be super negative. But, man, I don't know if it was jet lag. I don't know if it was game plan. I don't know if it was wanting to be there, but something was off, man.
All the above.
Yeah.
All the above.
Something was bad off because – and we'll go ahead and cover the O-line, but as a unit, they did not play well. They really did not. There were a couple of standouts. Dylan Wade had a pretty good game. He really did. Cam Stutz had a great game. If you check his Twitter, he's got a video of Jay Knott talking about, it's a name, and then he makes a giant block, and it's just a name, and then he makes another block, and he was mauling people all night long. He really was, but overall, they were not where they need to be, and I need to see a true starting five with no rotation. And I don't know if Xavier Miller's going to be that right tackle or if Gunnar Britton's going to be that right tackle, but one of them's going to have to be the swing guy that comes in and just handles things because we can't play 6 linemen at one time. We just can't. But I think we need Jeremiah Wright back at the left guard. I know we need Cam Stutz at the right guard. Avery Jones at center does concern me. His hand placement's not bad, but his foot width after he makes contact, he tends to his feet kind of shuffle out. And in pass protection, when you do that, you got no base and you're done, man. The Cal had way too much pressure up the middle for me. Like, it made me nervous. And I wasn't able to watch the whole game. We had 2 shows on Saturday, but what I was able to listen to and what Andy Burcham was saying, and then when I got to, right at the beginning of the third quarter to be able to watch it, it did not look good, and we have got to get that fixed for SEC play.
Yeah. So do you think, with that in mind, that was worse than some of the stuff that we've seen in previous seasons? Is there still improvement there in some areas, or are we kind of like, what's your assessment when you compare what we've seen even last season?
There is definite improvement. There really is. I'm not going to take that away from the guys, but they're still learning to gel. You've got 2 guys playing on the O-line that did not play a lot that are from Auburn, and everybody else is brand new.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that maybe they haven't figured it out as a coaching staff. Maybe they don't know who to put in there yet, but we've got to get an established starting five. We need 5 guys that can start, and we need a total of about 8 guys that can play and plug and play in different positions.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, the weekly press conference leading up to the Cal game, Coach was asked about that. It was either that or the SEC teleconference, and he had said that at one point they had about 9 guys that were rotating through the offensive line. Now is pretty much down to 8. So it does sound like that's the goal, is to get a focus group of guys where they're going to be. Maybe this Cal game was an experiment of sorts to see in a pressure situation, meaning you're, whether it's jet lag, you got the travel situation, you got it's an away game in a hostile environment. How is that group going to respond? And clearly some things didn't work, right? I mean, that's sometimes you got to take a risk in an area where maybe you even maybe don't want to, just to see what happens. And then you can maybe come back this week at Samford. It's another team that you should run over, but see how they respond at that in terms of what they were taught throughout the week, in terms of what they need to clean up, and then test it again at Texas A&M. I agree with you. I would like to see a set rotation, a set game plan. A lot of people express concern with Robbie and Peyton being switched in and out. I typically don't like that unless it really is working. And I struggle to think of dual quarterback systems that have had long-term sustained success. But Robbie's such an athlete. You got to find a way to utilize him. But hopefully we learned a little bit from what not to do this time.
Yeah. And I honest to God, I'd love to see Robbie run a little bit more up the middle, but Cal stacked the box because the game plan, we intended to run the ball, but they were not going to let us do that, and they made us pass. And I'm not 100% sold on Peyton Thorne right now after that game, because there were a lot of checkdowns he never hit, and he never looked at them either. And I don't know if the game plan, hey, push it, but it didn't really work. And the defense, I'll give them all the credit in the world. They really did keep us in the game.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough about Eugene Asante, and I'm not going to touch on that because everybody else has, but the secondary is so deep because we have starters, potential draft picks that are out right now, and they still held it down. Which, when the potential starters come back, our depth is already tested. They know what they're doing. They're good players. The defensive line still concerns me, but I did see today where Elijah McAllister is not predicted to start, and they're going to put in Jalen McLeod.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I think Elijah McAllister's a great leader, but I saw him and many other players on the defensive line, when somebody got close to him, they were doing this to try to make a tackle.
Right.
And that frustrates me to no end. You know, it's the guy's coming straight up the B gap, and that's your gap, and you're going, well, I'm kind of still hand fighting with this guy. At that point, you got to throw that man off and get in position to make a tackle. You can't wait for the running back to get a yard past you and go and hope for a tackle. Like, they played great. I'm doing my best not to be negative, but dang it, be in position and take the right angle.
No, I'm glad that you see it. Like, there's nothing wrong with giving constructive criticism. Like, I want you to know that. I think you've been here long enough. That's my big thing, is like, as long as you are constructively critical about them and you got other things to talk about other than just, oh, we suck. So please share any criticisms you have, because you have done the due diligence to say, you know, what worked, what didn't work. And it's not just the sky is falling. You know, it's it's funny to me to see reactions after the game, even though I asked for them. It was like, oh, we're horrible. And like, guys, just hold on. This is game 2. Let's figure these things. These are all correctable issues. Will they get corrected is the biggest question right now. So to your point about Elijah McAllister, Jalen McLeod, you know, I'm a big fan of his, talked about him a lot. My big thing is not that I knew he was going to be like the star for us at the edge rusher position, but what he means for the team in a holistic nature, as a person who is going to make a difference on the field, but off the field too. You got to have guys like that. But it's hard to ignore Jalen McLeod, what he did at App State. Will that translate over to the SEC? We're about to find out. Seems like he's pretty good. But you got to have depth when these guys get hurt. Like you said, the defensive back, even when draft picks are not out, you saw what happened. So it's just nice to see, to talk about these groups that are secure at Auburn, the defensive back group, and then actually see it still continue to resonate out there in the field. We can discuss all day what we did and didn't like about Gus Malzahn, but my goodness, did he leave us a foundation at defensive back? And obviously Harsin, did something to carry that over too. We have to give that credit too. But what's happened over the last few years, I know, but
I'll just say he knew he needed DBs because he apparently never had an offense.
Yep, and that may be the case right there. But what's happened with defensive backs at Auburn over the last, let's call it decade, it's pretty incredible.
No, it really is. I mean, we've replaced this particular season LSU and Alabama as DBU. We have depth, and we have a lot of depth at DB, and that's good. That's our back end. That's the last line of defense for the running game, specifically, of people who are not afraid to come up and make tackles. Watch Donovan Kaufman. He is not afraid of anybody. He will go up there and hit you in the face, the chest, the knees. He don't care. He's going to make the play as best he can. And I think the change in rotation at linebacker is, you may be the best physical specimen at linebacker on the team, but you may not be the best at heart. The one who's going to run in there and put your body on the line and play after play. And that's why Eugene Asante had the tackles and the stats he did, and the tackles for loss and the sack and everything else. Is he went in there and he threw his head in there and he made plays.
Yep.
And that's what it takes to win on defense.
And what do we talk about, just to use a different sport analogy here? Rebounding is a lot about talent, but there's a big portion of that is just desire. I'll give you an example. People remember not too long ago, Deshaun Murray. Really, he is size-wise a small forward, but played like a center and was like I don't know if he was the leading rebounder in the SEC for a while, but he was up there. I mean, it was all about desire and using what ability you had to the fullest possible potential. So to your point, undersized, less, not as fast, whatever. If you just love to go in there and make a play, if you got even a shred of talent, you're going to have some success. So love to see Asante continue to have success there. Let me get your, how you feeling about the game to kind of round us out, Sanford? I think you're probably feeling all right about it, but any score predictions, anything like that?
I can't give you a score prediction yet. I haven't watched enough Sanford film, but overall, I need to see a set offensive line. I need to see 285 yards or more passing. I need to see 250 plus yards rushing, and I need to see Sanford limited to 250 or less yards with a solid rotational defense for me to be happy. Yeah. And I think they have that opportunity, but we have got to iron things out, because the weekend after that, Saturday at 11 a.m., we're going to College Station. We're 4-1 there, and we better not be 4-2 at the end of it. It's ridiculous. We've got all the talent in the world. We just need to iron some things out, whether it be coaching staff, game plans, personnel groupings. Just iron it out, and we'll be gravy. We really will be.
There's two things there. All the talent in the world. Auburn's got it. Texas A&M has got it. Texas A&M continues to do less with it. And I can't explain it, my friend. Yeah. That's all it is right there. Thomas, it's great to hear from you, buddy. Thanks for calling in.
Y'all have a good night. War Eagle.
War Eagle. All right, we got a few minutes left tonight. I might stay on a few minutes later if you guys have got some comments, questions, topics that you want us to hit this evening. So I'll leave the phone line open for a little bit more, but don't hesitate. Call in now, especially with the way my schedule's been. You never know when the next one will be. Speaking of that, let's just talk about that a little bit, okay? As I addressed at the beginning of the show, for those of you that missed it, I got a big life change that's happened, a really good one. Can't talk about it right now for a variety of reasons. It's not just me trying to be mysterious. There's very good reasons for that. So your continued patience and discretion with that privacy is much appreciated. But I do want you guys to know, when you see less content maybe on social media and maybe some stuff skipped here or there, we didn't have a post-game show. We did not have a Sunday night Auburn Experience show. That's just due to my crazy life at this point in time. But here's what we can do. I hope to do another live stream tomorrow evening to preview Sanford. I have not had a time to get a Sanford person, though I may try to at the last possible second here this evening, given how crazy things have been. So we hope to do that tomorrow night. It will just to be determined upon what's going on with what I got going on here. I will be on campus. 99% sure of that for homecoming weekend, starting Friday through Saturday. So please, 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 if you're going to be on campus, come say hello. Had a great turnout with that last time. Come see me at Tiger Walk. Come say hello if you see me on campus. Follow along. Lots of content coming out there. Post-game show after that one. And we'll probably live stream Tiger Walk. We will potentially live stream a few other things there depending on how everything's going. But stay tuned. Lots of great things coming up this weekend from us about all the Auburn stuff here. Walker asks, do you think we'll see Holden Geriner? If you're asking me because Peyton Thorne struggled and we can't figure out how to use Robbie. No, like if you're asking because of the struggles that were apparent at quarterback this week, no. Do I think we'll see Holden because we're going to beat Sanford by hopefully a lot? Yeah. I think we'll see Holden. I'd like to see him a little bit more just to see what all the hype's about in terms of more than just a series or two. But that's dependent upon Peyton Thorne coming out there and doing what he needs to do to just get this team out ahead and move ahead. Let Robbie have a few reps as well. I would look at this, no offense, not trying to dismiss and say the game's already in hand, but let's just use context here, that this is an opportunity to really take advantage of somebody and see what we got at some other areas. Let's see. When's the next big recruiting visits coming up around? Corey, I don't know. That's a great question. In fact, Georgia weekend is probably going to be a big one. I would assume we've got some this week. I'm sure some of you that follow some of the recruiting sites can have a privy to that. But think about this, folks. If Auburn can get its issues corrected, we've Kevin, I think it was Kevin that brought it up earlier on his call about College game day coming to Auburn. If they can somehow stay undefeated, Georgia probably will. What a weekend that will be, folks, especially if they pick us for the nighttime game. Here's the great thing about this. So think about what Auburn's been picked for, and it's not a perfect science, but they played a midday game. They played a late night game. They're about to play a night game, a true primetime game. They will play an 11 o'clock game. Problem is that, we'll probably get that 2:30 slot traditionally for the Auburn versus Georgia matchup. But if somehow, some way they can get the college game day truck to come to Auburn, they might give us that nighttime spot there. What else stuck out in your minds? We'll take a few more comments and questions here. We're right at 8 o'clock, but like I said, I'll try to hang on for a few more minutes here. We'll probably close the phone lines down. If you are calling right now, we'll take it, but after that, we'll probably not. But I'll close the phone lines down for a little bit here. Is anybody really excited about homecoming? I know, look, everybody expects a win and all that stuff, but to me, homecoming is becoming every single year one of my favorite times to be at Auburn. The love for the campus, the university is just abounding. I'm not going to, act like I haven't shed a little bit of a misty eye for a video or two that have been posted by the Auburn creative team. They're going to get me, especially concerning what I've got going on in my life right now. So I'm expecting to have a good little misty eye session when they drop their homecoming video. I'll probably do it. I don't know if they'll do it Saturday morning or if they'll do it Friday evening or when it's exactly coming, but it'll be fun. I hope we don't get jinxed by going to Kyle Field next week. Love the new basketball uniforms. From what I saw of them, I like them too. Yeah, if you're a fan of Under Armour, it might be good to enjoy it because you never know if that thing's going to actually end with their negotiating window now open for Auburn to get anybody. Reese Davis promised Hugh Freeze that he would visit Auburn for ESPN College Game Day. I didn't see that. Is that something that he promised? It's a matter of time before it's about time, regardless, for Auburn to host it again. It's just got to line up in terms of Auburn being worthy of hosting it and the matchup being warranted and something else not being a bigger precedent set there. I believe I looked at the schedule for week 5. I think there was like one other game that potentially could have been the more prominent matchup, but they do take the opportunity to go to places like Auburn when it makes the most sense. Not to put the pressure on the team, but I think it would make a lot of sense if Auburn's undefeated, Georgia is, to come to Auburn for that. WT, I think with so many new faces, new coaches, and not a lot of time to gel together, I feel we can only get better week to week. I agree. Still 2 games into the season, lots more time to improve. As you heard from Thomas when he called, this is very much an important weekend in cleaning things up, figuring things out, because the real test, even as much as we've joked about Texas A&M squandering their talent, the real test starts this week, the next week, with SEC play on the road, traditionally where we have won and had a good record there, and it only gets tougher from there. Giddy to see the Iron Bowl on ESPN. Only a matter of time, my friend. Only a matter of time. All right. Think we're going to call it there, folks. I appreciate you guys again so much for being here, specifically tonight, and hanging out with me, talking about what we love within the Auburn experience. Thank you guys so much for your patience, and know that if you continue a slow progression back to normal schedules and content here, we're working hard to do that. There's a very, very good reason why that has been slowed or halted a little bit over the last days and this week or so. More on that in the future, but that'll be a little bit while before we're able to openly talk about all that. Thank you guys so much for being here, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. We appreciate you so much for being a part of that family. And until we talk to you again, War Eagle.